we cannot solve our problems with the same thinking we used when we created them. This is a quote from Albert Einstein. And you might be wondering why I am putting this quote here. The answer is in my presentation. So let's get into the presentation first. How can technology can help sustain and improve supply chains in the COVID-19 era? That's the topic today, and it's a very interesting topic. And I have broken the presentation into 3 parts. The first part, I will be talking about supply chain role and how COVID has impacted. The second part, I will talk about how technology can help supply chain. And the third part, I will give you some real-time examples. Supply chain was born to orchestrate material, cash, and information flow. How many of you accept this statement? If you really accept this statement, please put a comment in your chat box. Say yes. Thank you for that. So, what does it mean? Supply chain was born to orchestrate materials, cash, and information flow. So let's go one by one. Material flow. Material flow starts from supplier, and it goes through your manufacturer, and then through to customer and reaches consumer. So there's a flow from supplier to consumer. Supply chain is supposed to manage. Information starts from the consumer and the customer and flows to manufacturing, and then it flows to the supplier. And then if you look at the cash flow, only source of cash for supply chain is customer. So the cash mostly flows from customer to manufacturer to the supplier. Of course, there are a few exceptions, like in case of rejections or returns. There might be flow on the other side, but mostly the flow is like this. So why we are saying supply chain is orchestrating the material, cash, and information flow? Our biggest role is to collaborate across value chain and make sure the material, cash, and information flow goes smoothly. March 2020 in Sri Lanka, in some other countries, different timing, we had the COVID impact. And it was a major disruption to supply chain. So in terms of people have to start working from home. But let's look at each of the flows, what happened. Material flow, port congestions, supply lockdowns, importer material, some of the markets, they had their own lockdowns. So a lot of disruption in the upstream. In terms of manufacturing and logistics, well, safety of our employees is more important. That's the biggest important point. So we had to slow down the throughputs to ensure safety of the people and ensure social distancing. So again, disruption. And then in terms of transportation, in the downstream, again, we had challenges, curfews, lockdowns, and so on. In terms of information also, we had major challenges. Look at the demand numbers, which is a major information flow that comes in for supply chain. I mean, everything is driven by demand planning. In-home consumption went up because people start staying more at home because of the COVID situation, lockdowns, and so on. So in-home consumption went up, out-of-home consumption came down. So that means the demand baseline started changing. The numbers that we have put pre-COVID is no more valid. We have to relook at all the numbers that we have been putting into demand plan. And the entire supply chain is driven by demand planning. Not only that, there are other disruption in terms of information, right? One day you will hear the port has a congestion. On the other day, you will get some issue with the supply. Quite a lot of information challenges we had. So with all these challenges, what did we do? As a supply chain team, our prime objective is product availability. When I say product availability is the DNA of the supply chain team, would you agree? If you agree, say yes. Say yes, put it in the chat box. Product availability is the DNA of the supply chain. So as soon as COVID impacted almost all the companies' supply chain, what did they do? They started firefighting to ensure product availability. They were chasing behind information, materials, right? So it's just firefighting. But the question is, you can keep on improving the way you are doing things, but there's a certain limit to improve the whole supply chain. At a certain point, you have to start asking yourself, are we doing the right thing? Our pre-COVID assumptions, are they still valid? Should we relook at those assumptions, right? So the point is, any supply chain has 3 decision levels. Operational, tactical. Tactical is planning, and strategic is basically the supply chain design. So the right solution will come only at the supply chain design, where you can do rapid improvements. Just focusing on your planning and improving the operation by firefighting is not going to help you. So before going into the supply chain design and what are the key drivers and what we need to look at, I request you all to focus on this particular slide, which is a pretty interesting and very important slide. This is the biggest trade-off supply chain managers day in and day out, right? And it's part of the strategy. Either we can be a very agile, rapid responsive supply chain, or we can be an efficient supply chain. I mean, you can achieve both things together. I mean, both are important, but you have to prioritize one above the other. Generally, FMCG companies always go behind agility and rapid response because the customer needs are very high. Maybe if you're producing commodities, maybe you can focus more on efficiency because you are fighting on the pricing. So once you are very clear what's your supply chain biggest priority, I'm not saying the other one is not important, other one also important, but you have to identify which one is the biggest priority. You have to look at your supply chain design and what are the drivers: inventory, transportation, sourcing, information flow, the operation itself, right? These are the key areas we need to relook at. In terms of inventory, of course, we have to build up stocks because the risk was right across the supply chain. So we have to build inventory. In terms of sourcing, there has been risk at certain supplier points. If those vendors are single vendor, of course, we have to look at alternate vendors. But all these drivers, one of the common thing we have to look at was digitalization and automation. Let me explain you what it is. Now, inventory buildup. What we found is pre-COVID, okay, maybe we would have had a safety stock of 2 weeks for a certain item. But when it come to COVID situation, we had to increase the safety stock. That is one. But when you increase the safety stock, the cost will go up, right? You need more storage cost. Your inventory cost goes up. So we were forced to look at a flexible safety stock. We were forced to assess the value chain risk day in, day out, and keep on changing the safety stock just to optimize, because today's risk is in a certain category. Tomorrow there's a risk in another category. So we have to keep on assessing the risk. In terms of transportation, your customers start asking, where is my goods, right? So we need to give them information, where the order is, where it is stuck. In terms of sourcing, even though risk mitigation is the first priority, we need information. Where is our shipment? Where it is stuck? What is happening? Right? And in terms of operation, we have to maintain social distancing. So there's opportunity to find some automation so that we can maintain social distancing, safety of our people, and continue our operation and increase the throughput. And all these drivers requires digitalization. And when I say information flow, we need quick information, real-time information flow for real-time execution. So that is where I think there was a big game changer in my view. All these drivers really required a digitalization and automation for real-time data and real-time execution. So let me, yeah, there's small issue, just, okay, fine, right. So one of the biggest thing that came out after relooking at the supply chain, looking at the supply chain design is to redesign the supply chain as a digital supply chain. That what came in a big way. So this is very important slide. This is one of the big thing we implemented. And I would request all of you to focus on this particular slide. This is a big thing. Central control tower. You know, our normal way of working is in supply chain, you have different functions. You have procurement, you have logistics, you have planning, you have customer service. They have their weekly reviews. And probably at a supply chain level, we will have a monthly review to strategize, understand each function's priorities and challenges, and decide on how we want to operate. But during COVID situation, the context in which the value supply chain was working keep on changing. I'll tell you at certain point, morning one context, evening another context. When I say morning, certain areas is lockdowns, evening you see another set of areas are lockdown. So morning you hear supply X and Y cannot supply. Evening you will hear supply Z also cannot supply. He will take another 2 weeks to recover, right? So this is where we felt that as an operational team, we have to get together. We have to look at end-to-end information. And it's also real-time information. So we created dashboards with our talented team members and start monitoring end-to-end information so that we can take decision looking at end-to-end supply chain, not isolated decision. Because if you go on these individual functional reviews, by the time you look at all the functions issue and take decision, you will be too late, right? You have to take, the information have to be real time and the execution also have to be real time. So that is why we really make a difference. So you can see from a customer side, the mobility data is important. Because as I told you, because consumers started staying at home more. So that means in-home consumption went up. Google mobility data is a very good tool to understand how much mobile is the people. Now, as of today, people mobility is 30% lesser than the normal level in Sri Lanka. That's a very important information to understand how the income consumption will be and how much the out of consumption will be. Basis your parameters, demand planning parameters. Your suppliers need real-time data on the order status, availability, and so on, right? And what will be going out of stock, when, and so on. In terms of supplier, we have to continuously communicate to them the revised forecast numbers because the demand numbers are keep on changing. So we have to continuously inform our suppliers of the forecast increases and decreases. The lead time and the service level of suppliers is changing. That information is very much required to decide which part we have to build up inventory and what is the risk overall. And we also have to understand how much supplier stock levels. Also the cost elements in terms of vehicle fill rate. That was one of the challenges. I mean, when sometime we have to send the vehicle 70% filled and send, but it has a cost impact, right? Sometimes we have to take a decision on an air freight. So all these decisions we took considering the end-to-end situation. And that will really help you to optimize your supply chain. So this is one of the great thing we did. And from traditional monthly review, we went into weekly review. And during the COVID times, we were really looking at the entire visibility on a daily basis. Some of the sourcing tools, e-auction and eCPI was available even before. Right? But we found when people work from home, we can't meet our suppliers. There's no opportunity to do face-to-face negotiation. So e-auction is a very good tool. We start using it increasingly. eCPI is another great tool. In procurement, you have to buy in a compliant way. And eCPI is a very good tool where procurement put the catalog of the pricing and the materials, and any stakeholders can go into the eCPI system, which is like an Amazon.com type of system. You can pick up the material and you can order the material straight away. It's a very compliant way of ordering the materials. In terms of facilities, as I told you, social distancing is very critical. So we look at how to run the operation with a high throughput, with the minimum number of people, right? So telescopic conveyors is a very good concept where you can prick the goods in dock level and you can push it to the trucks, right? With the less number of people. Telematic is another interesting system where you can monitor your forklift and reach trucks and look at the efficiency of them and minimize the usage of forklift and reach truck. In a typical DC, you will see so many forklift and trucks and reach trucks, and you wonder whether you need all these numbers. There is always opportunity. So telematic is a good system to understand, really optimize the forklift and reach truck. Packing line automation is another area where you can really look at opportunities. In terms of transportation, again, we created a hub there with our logistics team. GPS really helped. I mean, it's nothing new. Ocean transport, we have to track. So we work with our partners. Eagle Logistics is one of our partners in shipping, and they created a lovely digital system to monitor the shipments, where it is, and how much is getting delayed, and which shipment is getting cleared when, all the information online. So all these really helped. Now, this is a very important slide, I would say. So I would request you all to focus here. In your digital journey, in my view, digitalization is a journey. It's not about blockchains, artificial intelligence, and going to a certain place. No, you have to first understand where you are in terms of digitalization, in terms of maturity curve, right? And let me explain this slide. If you have a primitive digital system, your digital system is very descriptive. It will only tell what happened. Now let me give you an example and then elaborate this. Let's say there's a hospital, right? And suddenly you see the number of patients admitted to the emergency ward has gone up. So a descriptive digital system will only tell you how much the number of people admitted has gone up. That's the only information it will give you. The next level is diagnostic. Why did it happen? So there, same example, it will tell you that most of the patients have flu and cold symptom, and probably they have flu. So diagnostic will tell you why did it happen. A predictive system, which is much more mature, will tell you based on the past experience, maybe this will continue for another 3 months. So you will get more patients to your emergency ward for next 3 months. A prescriptive system, which we can say famously called artificial intelligence, will tell you next 3 months how much extra doctors you might need, how many extra nurses you might need, how much medicine you need to order, right? So for me, digital is a journey. You have to understand where you are, right? It's not about just the ultimate where you want to go and land, but it's about journey. Now in Nestle, we are mostly into diagnostic and predictive systems, and we want to go to prescriptive. So digital supply chain is making the impossible possible. When I say impossible possible, what does it mean? Any system in supply chain, as I mentioned before, it has there's a trade-off, right? Either you can be highly responsive while you are efficient, or you can be very efficient while you are responsive. But digital system can improve both responsiveness and cost. So it's really can make impossible possible. But remember, everything starts with your customer needs. So you might think that moving to digital supply chain will require more and more tools. Yeah, digitalization is a key enabler, especially during COVID, for you to sustain the performance and improve the performance. Definitely digitalization is a key enabler. But I will tell you, there is one more enabler which is very, very critical, right? Only digitalization will not give you all what you want. That is all about your people. And change management is the key. I'll tell you, when my team started the year, we all were together and we were discussing and brainstorming where do we want to go? And then we were discussing, why do we want to go there? Why do we want to go there? Everybody have to be convinced that the destination where we want to go, there's a big reason to go there, right? So why do we want to go there? And once you are very clear where do you want to go and why do you want to go there, you can find out what are the action you need to take. And definitely digitalization is one of the key enabler, and your action will be having quite a lot of digitalization actions. So, and by communicating this to your team members again and again, definitely you can drive this change across your supply chain. And so be an early adapter of digital supply chain and start innovating your future today. And that's my presentation. Thank you so much. And over to Shivo.
Thank you, Sati. Thank you for your presentation on how technology can enable and improve the supply chain. So this has been an eye opener for some of the areas, and good to see that how technology has impacted your organization and your team. Ladies and gentlemen, before we move on to the next eminent speaker, if you have any question regarding Satyendra's topic, please go ahead and ask on the chat box. And Sati, I have a question for you before
yes.
ask. Okay. Now you said two enablers, technology and team, right? So when you first started introducing the new technologies, was there any resistance from your team? If there was a resistance, how did you manage it?
Yeah, so I would say there was not much resistance because we were very clear on what we want to achieve as a team. As I mentioned to you, when we started the year, we were very clear where we want to be in 2 to 3 years' time. And we were very clear why we want to be there. And each and every member of the team was very clear where they want to be. Right. So digitalization is a key enabler to drive your supply chain to the destination you want to move. So people were very clear about the digitalization role. Now, when the COVID impact came, it's only that we were forced to accelerate our digitalization journey because we found that digitalization is really going to be a key enabler to sustain our performance during COVID and improve the performance.
Got it. Okay, great. So I have a question from Imam Tanvir. I believe he's from Bangladesh. So he's asking, what are your suggestions and advice for an organization who is currently in disruptive stage? What would be your advice?
Yeah, so you have to develop, you have to look at to develop the tools for the next level. So in the descriptive level, probably you can put the slide there. Yeah, so descriptive is all about what happened. But so if you can, so in our case, we develop BI reports, right? So we extract the data from SAP system, and we started developing tools where we were able to drill down and understand different subcategories, detail, cellular level, to understand where the issue is, rather than looking at a very high level, right? And by doing that, we were able to understand why did it happen, right? So it's all about developing your digital tool to a next level, right? So in a typical system, you might have all the data, but it's all about how do you develop tools to extract those data and to see at a cellular level what is happening, to understand why it happen. That's my advice.
Okay, great. Thank you, Sati. Thank you, Tanvi, for the question. Now we have a question from Mr. Rauf. He's asking, Mr. Rauf, hi. Thank you for being here. So in case of perishable goods, where do we need to emphasize to minimize the risk for perishable goods?
Yeah, that's a very good question. I mean, this is one of the biggest challenge we had. I mean, okay, you are talking about perishable goods, but we sell goods which are 6 months of expiry and some are 12 months. But you will not believe me. I mean, some of the stock started getting aged, right? Because as I told you, out of home consumption came down. So that means the products that goes to out of home consumption start stagnating at our distribution center, right? So yeah, so there is no fixed answer for this. What is very important is the visibility. You have to give visibility of those stocks to your business. So you have to have a frequent review, weekly basis, to understand what are those stocks, where are they stuck, right? And with your business unit, you have to come out with some action plan to minimize any risk of those products getting expired. And if it expired, then the value will be zero. So you have to recover as far as possible. So even before, much before the product start losing its freshness, we have to take action. So you have to have a good digital solution to track your freshness of your products. And maybe when the product, so you have to have a target. Let's say if the products lose its 30 or 40% of the shelf life, we have to trigger actions along with the business units. What do you want to do and how do you want to avoid any risk of writing off those materials?
Great.
That's my answer. Thanks.
Thank you for the detailed answer. Great. Sashi, okay. Sati, can you hear me?
Yes. Very clear.
Okay, so next question from Tanvir. How can a supply chain manager convince the management to go to the next level of digitization? Quite an interesting question. Thank you, Tanvir, for the question.
Yes.
So how to convince the management?
Okay. Right. So, so today's presentation mostly came from my own experience, and I'll tell you how I managed it. Right. So we started in a small manner. Right. We started this digitalization journey in a small manner. Right. And every time we have a win, we used to make a big noise. We communicated to our the other senior managers on the achievement. We to start giving visibility to them on the benefits, right? And so that really helped to get a good support from the senior management, right? And so it's very important that you have to every small success, every small digitalization effort, you have to make a big noise, right? And every digitalization effort, I mean, as I told you, I mean, don't try to fit in something there to your business. Then you might fail. I mean, you have to really understand what is your customer needs. You have to look at your supply chain design, and you have to see opportunities where the big impact can come from, and then start somewhere and start selling the points. So then the people will convince that there is lot of benefit and value is coming, and definitely then your management will start supporting. But in my case, as far as Nestle Sri Lanka is concerned, as a business priority, we had digitalization as a big priority. So it came from top actually. So in my case, it was very easy. But to answer this question, I would say if your top management is not convinced, then you have to start showing the value by starting small.
Great. Thank you so much. Thank you, Tanvi, for the question. Yeah, so one last question from our side is, Sati, do you think as a supply chain manager or a supply chain vice president, now self-development or education is important? Because you're at a pinnacle level, you are the vice president of supply chain of Nestle Lanka, right? So do you think still learning is important?
I think it's very, very important, and I have to thank Shuo, you and Ijazur for introducing to this particular supply chain management course. And I'll tell you, it was a lovely experience for last 2 months. Because, see, in one way, I got really jealous about this particular program, because, the 20 years experience I have gained was put in a very summarized form and was put it in a nice curriculum, and it was presented to the students in 2 months. So I was really impressed with the program, the ISCA certification program. It really helped me. 70% of the stuff there I know before, because we have been applying those principles, but there was another 30% which I really learned as new area. So I feel learning is lifelong, and there are a lot of opportunity. I would say this particular ISCA program is really great. Thanks, Shuo, for that question.
No problem. Thank you, Sati, for taking action.
The most profitable companies in the world have learned to use their supply chains to keep goods and services flowing into the marketplace. But supply chain processes are only as good as the people who keep them running. Supply chain employment opportunities are constantly being created, and ISCEA certified professionals are getting the best paid jobs. If you wish to become a sound supply chain professional and gain real-world experience and knowledge, then ISCEA is your one-stop source for supply chain education, certification, and recognition. ISCEA is the International Supply Chain Education Alliance. We were the first organization certifying supply chain professionals around the globe, and we remain the worldwide authoritative resource for supply chain career validation, with thousands of certificate holders commanding top-tier salaries. Our certification programs are aligned with best practices and industry-proven standards. They bring together academic research advances and innovative industry trends, validating that you have the knowledge used by top companies to remain competitive in an ever-changing business environment. For your company, that translates into significant cost reductions, faster revenue growth, and a collaborative teamwork environment. For your career, it means exceeding everyone's expectations and taking control of your future. So, what are you waiting for? Stand out from the crowd and take your career to the next level with an ISCEA internationally recognized supply chain certification.